my name is Rachel, and welcome to another episode of Friday Night Knits. I am your host, I guess, where I love to talk about my current knitting projects, crochet projects. Occasionally, I do share some little personal anecdotes about my professional and personal life. And today, I wanted to do a quick video as I am filming from a different location. I am in New York City. I'm here for a meeting that I'm hoping that is a good meeting and not one of those that could be something that's done in a email. And I had an opportunity to explore the city today. My flight got here around like 7, and I hung out in LaGuardia Airport because they completely redid the airport, and I wanted to see what it looked like and just enjoy the scenery from that particular perspective. And then I took a Uber here to the hotel, and where I'm staying is right near Comedy Central's The Daily Show. So I'm like, oh, that's so cool because I watch The Daily Show pretty frequently. And then I also got a chance to see the Alvin Ailey dance company. I've always been fascinated by that particular dance company, not just because of the founder of it and other really famous individuals who come out of it, but I just find the artistic expression of music just to be inspiring. And it was just really wonderful just to walk around the facility and just to tour. And it's one of those topics that I know I include in my content when I teach AP African American Studies. So that was really a nice moment for me. And then I got a chance to continue walking. I did a lot of walking this afternoon, or morning, I should say, and afternoon. But anywho, I continued walking, and I found a cute little bookstore that was called Shakespeare Bookstore. And I got a chance to just, take my time and walk around. I was able to find a few new books for myself and my son. I just started, actually couldn't help but opening the new book because I was waiting for the knitting store to open, or yarn store, I should say, open, and I got into it. So I'm curious where the story is going to go. If I end up liking it, I would definitely share details about it. I also had a chance to go to Knitty City. Knitty. It is here's a little logo. So I heard about this particular yarn store from watching Knitty Natty. I guess when she was living here in New York, she had an opportunity to come to this particular location a few times, and she talked about the uniqueness of this particular yarn store. And I had to agree with her because it was really, really, it was cozy. Although it wasn't a very large space, it was a very cozy space, a very welcoming space, and I definitely enjoyed my time, browsing through the yarn and seeing what was there. I wish I bought a larger suitcase because I definitely would have purchased a significantly larger quantity of yarn. But unfortunately, I did only bring a small suitcase, so I was only able to get 2 skeins of yarn. So I guess we'll talk about my acquisitions before we talk about my finished objects and current projects. So while I was at Knitty City, in addition to getting one of their famous tape measurers, because it has their logo on it, and I got a little sticker, I came across this beautiful mohair. This is 80% kid mohair and 20% silk. It's called Leisure, and Trendsetter Leisure. The colorway is Wine and Roses, and I believe Trendsetter is the name of the company. Now, this particular ball of yarn was $50. And at first I was a little like, why would I pay $50? And then I saw how much yarn you get with this. So with this particular unique colorway that's hand dyed according to its tag, you get 100 grams of yarn, and for every 100 grams, it's 40 yards. And I don't know, I really, really liked the colorway, and I knew it was super unique. And it's not something I would see too often in my own neck of the woods. Usually I can get one skein that has multiple colors in it for between $28 to $38 in my neck of the woods. And it's definitely not 440 yards. It's usually around 2 to maybe 328. I did see a few skeins of yarn that I would buy in my local yarn store that was around that same price range that was a hand dyed, but I chose not to purchase that. But for whatever reason, this really stood out to me, and initially I was going to get this multicolor. It was almost like rainbow, but I decided to get this because it reminds me of my earrings that I purchased a few years ago at a Black History Teacher Conference. And I really loved the various colorways. It's purple. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's purple and pink and it's a really sharp red and a little bit of bronze and yellow in it. It's really well done, and I can totally see this either in a scarf or a sweater, which we're going to talk about my current projects in a moment. So I picked up that, and the second acquisition I picked up was a ball or halo of yarn. This is Yorkshire's Spencer's Fable and Brush Aaron. Here, I'll hold it. Oops, there we go. Now, I heard about this yarn a few times, and I heard it was really soft. It was really luxurious to knit with, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll buy a sweater quantity. But I'm trying to get in the habit, if there is a yarn that I'm introduced that I really like, rather than just buying a whole heap of it and then realizing I don't really like the yarn, instead start with a smaller project. And if I really like the experience with it, then go back and buy a larger quantity of it. And typically, if I'm buying a small quantity of it, I try to buy a colorway that I don't have at home, or a colorway that I frequently will wear, or something in my family. So I chose this particular color, which is called Titan. The colorway is 1228. And my reason for this is that this is a universal color in my home. Myself and my sons and husband can wear this if when I turn it into a hat, and it's enough yardage to do the free pattern by Hoagie Locatelli. She has this new cable hat that's absolutely gorgeous. And as a winner, I won one of her knit along prizes. So I don't know how many of you have heard about her Ready for Fall knit alongs. I believe she's been doing them for a few years. And essentially, what people are invited to do is to select one of her published patterns, self published patterns, as to say, and knit it up. And then when you're finished, you share it in the finished object thread. And then she does this random generator selection. And if you successfully completed the project and your number's there, you get chosen. And I successfully completed a project and I was chosen. I won one of her leather bucket bags. I will hopefully insert a picture of it. I do plan to post pictures of it on Instagram. Every time I go on Instagram lately, when I'm ready to go post, I get distracted. So I need to do that. But that's my plan with this one. I think that this will be a perfect hat for our family. It is fairly soft, and I like the little the fuzziness that's there already. This is made with Falkland wood wool, British alpaca, and British mohair. And so it does feel a little scratchy, but I think once I wet block it, it will feel fine. And recently, because this has 50% wool, 35% alpaca, and 50% mohair, what I tried recently, I was watching, oh goodness gracious, I don't know what I was watching. I think it was a Veronica Lindbergh YouTube posts. It could have been hers. But anywho, I heard a few podcasters say this, so it shouldn't just say it's her. But as I was watching her post, she was talking about like sometimes when you're working with some rustic yarn, to put a little hair conditioner in it and it will soften the yarn. And I have a ton of Jamieson's there. I think that's what it's called. Jamieson's wool, as well as the Lopi wool. And though I bought it in on sale and have a large quantity of it for the woolly thistle, it's beautiful yarn. I love the colorways. So it's not the color. It's definitely plenty to do a full sweater. Actually, both both were kits that I purchased for a sweater. So anywho, I have not worked with it because it feels a little too rustic for the sensitivity area on my neck. And so I decided to knit a little swatch, and I popped it into, my son had some water that he didn't want to drink. It was a whole thing. So I put a little hair conditioner in a bottle because I knew he wasn't going to drink it, and it was about that much left in the water bottle. And I just dropped the swatch in and I swatched it around and I let it soak for a few hours, and I took it out. I didn't rinse it or anything, which maybe I could have, but nevertheless, took it out, and then I laid it flat to dry, and it was ridiculously soft. Like the hairs in it just like calmed down. And I know with wet blocking that already happens, but this just like magnified it. So I think moving forward with any of my Peruvian or just some of my more itchier wool, I think I'm going to move forward with just using just a little dabble of hair condition at home. The hair condition that my sons and I use As well, my husband's bald, so he doesn't use any hair conditioner, which he probably should. But anywho, we use Contu. I've always liked that brand of hair product. I've been natural for, gosh, I want to say at least 10 years. Yeah, maybe even a little longer. I've been natural. On occasion, as you know, those of you who have been watching my channel, I will put braids in my hair, especially when it gets super cold. So, like next weekend, I will probably have braids again because it's starting to get real nippy out there. And that baldness and that cool air, they don't mix too well together. So, but I love the way Cantu just sits in my hair. I find that my hair is always super soft and it doesn't dry out as horrible as it used to. So that's what hair condition I used to soften that particular swatch. I actually did the same thing with another acquisition. So we'll continue on with acquisitions. My second acquisition, which will also bring me to my current whips, is this ball of yarn. This is universal yarn. I'm sorry I don't have the tag with me, but it's 100% wool, and I believe it's it's over 200 yards of yarn. I know it's more than 220, but it's less than 277. So I'm sorry I don't know the exact number off the top of my head because I left the yarn tag at home. But I decided to purchase this yarn because I am finally cast on for the Arctic Light sweater. So as you can see, I am in the very beginning of the Arctic Light sweater. I haven't made any progress whatsoever with it. It was really just a matter just to getting myself to cast it on. And as I was working with it, I decided I wanted something fuzzy. I didn't want to second guess myself. So that's what's on my needles right now. I know I still want to make a white cable sweater. So let me backtrack for a second. I have been obsessed with white cable sweaters ever since there are two things I watched. Years ago, I watched that The Thieves. What is it? It was a movie with Chris Evans in it and a few other actors whose names are escaping me at the moment. But it was the movie where he's wearing, Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, is also in it as well. But anywho, he's wearing an all over Aaron Weight cabled sweater. And as I was watching the movie, I was up late. My son was probably like a few months old. So naturally, I wasn't sleeping that well. So I'm watching, I was thinking to myself, like, gosh, that's such a beautiful sweater. If I ever knew how to make something like that, I would totally do that. Well, fast forward to a few years later, I finally learned how to knit. And as I was watching yet another episode that Veronica Lindbergh had posted on YouTube, she had came out with the Arctic Light sweater. And I'm like, that's it. There is my all over cable sweater. I purchased the pattern and then I went on to various websites and purchased large quantities of white yarn. And I also purchased large quantities of white mohair, but could never push myself to actually cast on for a white sweater. Now, I don't know about the rest of you all, but I am a human tissue. My sons still to this day see me as like, oh, I need a napkin. Mommy, come here. Oh, my nose is running. Mommy, come here. Oh, I'm about to throw up. Mommy, I'm going to aim towards you. I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old at home, and they just still have those habits. I'm enjoying the fact that they still love and cuddle up on mommy, especially when they're sick. But when they're sick, they have no problem of just going, I don't feel well, and just rub their faces in my chest and my tummy, depending on where they're at in their height. And I'm like, oh, great. I just have to wash this. So my biggest fear is that I'm going to be wearing that sweater while one of my sons is sick. And then my second fear is the fact I'm a very messy eater. I try to pretend like I have it on. I don't. I'm not on my A game when it comes down to putting food in my mouth. Heck, even drinking water. Before starting to film this, I just like took a sip of water, got half of it down my sleeve. I don't know why. My friends used to joke that I had a hole in my mouth because I was always spilling food out of my mouth whenever. And I chew properly. I don't know. For some reason, I am a messy eater. So that's my other big concern, that I'm going to be eating something. So I know that when I'm wearing, like for example, when I want to eat like chili or spaghetti, I do not wear something I really love. Like I love this sweatshirt. This is probably one of my favorite sweatshirts I own. I wear it so often. As you can see, the little tip at the end, it's popped off. But anywho, I don't wear this when I'm eating specific food. But if I know I'm eating something with sauce on it, I am not putting this on because I don't want to mess it up. It is one of my favorite sweatshirts. I'm actually a little nervous about the dinner I picked up for myself tonight because it's definitely saucy. So I probably will be wrapping something around. It's really no joke. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. But anyway, I want to knit an all over cable white sweater, but I just haven't worked up the courage yet because of potential messes. So, although I have enough in stash to knit the Arctic Light sweater, for the last 2 years, have gone out of my way not to knit the Arctic Light sweater. I have come up with all kinds of excuses not to do so. And so, what I decided to do was to compromise with myself after a lot of self negotiation because, as you know, the year is coming to an end, and I really wanted to make sure I cast that on. And with her patterns, she does these really beautiful textured patterns that are simple. So I feel like I have to have like an advanced set of knitting skills in order to do like a Sorry Norland pattern. Whereas with Veronica Lindbergh, I feel that if you are an advanced beginner or intermediate, you can definitely ease into many of her texture patterns with fairly simple ease. And whereas if her non-texture patterns, her stockinette ones, you can be a beginner and start it off and have a great time. With this particular pattern, she has tutorials for it. It's definitely fully accessible, but it's just me being so indecisive about whether to do this in white or to do it to gray. Then another issue popped up. I always wanted, and I shouldn't say always because it's just been short lived. I would like for 2024 to end the year with doing a cable cardigan. Now, I cast on a Brady Loop cardigan and I fell out of love instantly with that particular pattern and the yarn I was using with it. Not because the yarn was not anything on the fault of both the designer and the yarn. The designer is Other Loops because the Brady Loop cardigan is made by Other Loops, and the yarn I was using is Camilla Rose. Both beautiful, perfect pairing with one another, but my brain was like, no. And so I wanted something heavier but not as light. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yarn, but I purchased it in order to make that particular pattern. Then Petite Knit teased out that she was coming out with a new pattern that's called the dog mirror. I have to put the name of it up, but I'll try to put the name and the screenshot of the picture of this particular pattern. But with this pattern in itself, it's an all over textured cardigan, not like almost like a cardigan because it has a zipper. And so I was thinking like to do this as a compromise, to put the Arctic Light on hold again. One day I'm going to do that sweater, or just not yet. And I think another reason why I'm hesitant about doing it, I already did one of her all over textured sweaters. I did a test knit months ago called the oatmeal light. No, oatmeal. It's just called the oatmeal sweater, and it was fun and it's beautiful and it's something I actually wear. I wore that sweater 3 times since making it. Actually, more than 3 times, and I think about it. So I really, really like that particular sweater. I like the yarn for it. I wish I made a body a little bit longer, but I was playing yarn chicken, and the way that she designed several of her patterns, including the Arctic Light, they're definitely made to be more at waist / cropped. And that goes with the trend with people in their 20s and 30s. I'm in my 40s. I want something a little bit longer. So with that said, with both the Arctic Light as well as with other sweaters I do of Veronica Lindbergh, I know that I need to buy an extra skein of yarn because I'm going to make the body at least 50 to 100 yards longer than what the pattern calls for. So with all that said, circling back to the Petite Knit, I saw the pattern. It's all over cable or textured, I should say, because it's honeycombs, it's moss, it's this, it's that, it's everything. It's everything sprinkled all into one, plus a zipper. And I was thinking, I'm like, if I were to knit this, and I knit this for myself, it's also something I can share with my kids, I can share with my spouse, because I can make it at a size where all of us can fit. My husband's pretty narrow chest, and my sons are still small, but they do like to put on my sweatshirts or my husband's sweatshirts. So I was figuring it could be a family thing. That's what I'm telling myself to justify um, knitting it. So I don't know. I really don't know. And buying this yarn today makes me really lean towards doing the Arctic Light in white. Although I was going to do, here we go. This is how indecisive I am. I was going to do the, what is that? The rainy day tea in white as like a little compromise with myself. Since I couldn't commit to that, then I'll do the rainy day tea. Now I'm like, well, maybe I'll go back to my original plan and doing the rainy day tea in pink and doing the sibling sweater in white and purple or white and black. So many decisions to make. And that brings me to my finished object. So, as I've been trying to decide what's going to be my next focal point, is it going to be the Arctic Light in this beautiful gray yarn that has a little sage tint to it that I purchased from Gather Here? It's universal yarn, just in case I didn't say it. It's Aran weight, 100% superwash wool, but it doesn't feel superwash where it doesn't have that sheen to it, which I actually like. It allows for a little bit more of that fuzziness to it too. I love the yarn. I love how soft it is. I think it's going to be perfect for the sweater. It has great stitch definition because I did a swatch with it. Beautiful. I'm all indecisive because of this beauty. Again, I'm going to try to insert pictures of myself. If I don't insert any pictures, please note in the description, not only will I have links to the patterns, I will also have links to my Ravelry and my Instagram. My Instagram is not as updated with some of my most recent projects and acquisitions, but my Ravelry is. But anywho, you know why I'm indecisive? Look at this gorgeous Petite knit sweater. This is the Wednesday sweater by Petite knit. I'm going to be wearing it tomorrow at my meeting. I am in awe of myself. I put this on a couple of nights ago. I'm going to say 2 nights ago. And I was like, damn, I look good in this. And it was after I ate food that makes my belly look like I'm 6 months pregnant again. It was after work. I was not in a very glorious, wasn't like, ooh, isn't she lovely? I was in a like, ooh, child, situation. But man, I felt beautiful, fine, sexy, all the adjectives when I put this sweater on. I feel good in this, so good. I can't wait to make another. Now, this sweater, as I said before, is a Petite knit pattern. It's called the Wednesday sweater. It's a turtleneck, and I know some people have done it crew neck style. But with this particular pattern, what you do is that you start in the back. You do your little, what is those called? The transpose? No, the bell. We're going to call it a bell. I know that's not the name that many of us knitters call it. Heck, I know the proper name for it, but I'm out of words today. But anywho, the bell. You do your bell in the back, then you pick up stitches, and then you join in the front, and then you knit round and round you go. And then after you are successful in knitting a lot in a round, you then do some twisted rib at the bottom. Now, I'm different when it comes down to twisted ribs. I don't do the in the back loop, knit in the back loop, and purl in the back loop. I don't do all that. Instead, I'm lazy because I tend to find, I find that knitting with my left hand, tensioning my yarn, I should say with my left hand, I find that my ribbing looks a lot cleaner, as well as when I say cleaner, that clear column between each stitches, and that it gives that twisted rib look. So for the body here, at the bottom, that's what I did. Now, I don't like the ribbing on this. I'm not going to lie. And the reason why I don't like the ribbing on it is because the fuzziness from the sweater takes away from that. And if I had my time back, what I would have done is done the whole body in the fuzz, because I love the body in the fuzz. I just don't like the ribbon in the fuzz. And what I would have done with the ribbing, I would have just held 3 strands of this yarn together to get the same weight, and then did the ribbon that way. It would have changed the color slightly, so that was another reason why I was hesitant about doing it. But all in all, I love the actual look of this. If I were to do this again, I would do the ribbing in a different, I wouldn't use the brush, I used the brush alpaca. Now, the other thing I did differently with this particular pattern, because it does call for twisted rib, and it calls for a tubular bind off. Now, I love doing tubular bind off. Now that I've gotten the rhythm of it, I can do it pretty easily. I always watch the tutorial video that I go to the most. For me, it's usually the Pink Lady Knits, or yeah, Pink Knits. She's my go-to for like quick tutorial refreshers, and so I will watch that one more time just to refresh my memory. Even though I may know it, I just like do it one more time, and then I go and do my tubular bind off. But this time, I decided not to use the tubular bind, not to do the tubular bind off because it's a lot of stitches. It's a lot. So what I did differently was this alternative bind off that was such a good idea. Now here it is, you see? Now my hope is, oh no, you can't see that way. Let's see it. Can you see it? I hope you can. My hope is that I will remember to link the tutorial that I use to help me with this. Even if you don't like the one I link, or if it doesn't make any sense, you can always just do a YouTube search and you will find a tutorial. But essentially, I'm going to do my best to explain this. You knit into the first stitch when you're starting off. You knit into the first stitch, and then you purl into your next stitch, and then you put your knit the two stitches that are on your right, because let me start over. Talking about this as if you are an English knitter. I don't know what you do if you're continental, but if you're someone that tensions your yarn with your right hand, this is all for you. I'm sure you could do the same thing with your left hand, but I haven't done that yet. So yes, I did all my twisted ribbing with my left hand, but I did my bind off with my right hand because I'm more dominant with my right hand. But anyway, I digress. So you knit into the first stitch, you purl into the second stitch, and then you take the two needles that are on your right one and you move it back over to your left. You take your purl and you bring it over that knit stitch, and that's one stitch on your right needle. Then you bring that same stitch back over again, that one stitch back over to your left needle, and the next stitch should be a knit one, and you knit into both of them, and now you have it on your right needle. Then you go into, and the next stitch is a purl, so you purl that one. So again, you put that knit stitch back on there, then you bring that purl over, and then now you have this new knit stitch. Then you're going to put that new knit stitch back onto your left needle, and you knit into the knit stitch that's there, and as well as the new knit stitch. Now, I don't know how that works in a 2x2. I didn't look for that. I only know how to do this for a 1x1. And usually when people are doing the 2x2 ribbing, they have to do a setup row to transition out of 2x2 to a 1x1. At least in my tubular bind off experience. If there's a way to do a 2x2 bind off experience for tubular, let me know. But I will link the tutorial that I use to help me with this. It does make for a very tight bind off. And I think the reason why it makes for a tight bind off because I did it really tightly. I wish I did it a little bit looser, but I was really nervous about it. Number one, if I were to do this again, which actually I plan to do it moving forward as terms of a bind off, number one, because you still get that rolled edge, number one, I would go up a needle size, maybe even two, because then I know it will help loosen until I feel more comfortable about loosening up my gauge and whatnot, or loosening up my tension. I would need to go up 2 needle sizes. So that's number one. Number two, I would have to double check. I would just do like little checks to make sure it's not too tight. So you can see like my edging is super tight. Now I can always go back and fix that, but I actually like the way it looks. Here's the dilemma. Now I did that for, as you can see on the body, I also did on the sleeves, and it gave me no problem on the sleeves. Like my sleeves fit like a glove. But you know it doesn't? You already know what I was going to say. You can see it, can't you? See how tight that is? Yeah. Now, again, here's another dilemma. I like it. It took everything under the sun to get it over my head. Like I think I lost about 4 or 5 strands of hair. There's probably a little bit more of a baldness that's going on here at the top, but that's okay. That is okay. But I had to strain so much that it like overstretched this one. I'm sorry about the sirens in the background. I had to, it stretched out this section here. So it's a struggle to get around my neck. And it's not one of those yarns that's going to expand over time and whatnot. But once I got it over my head, and yes, I kept going until I did some do. Like I did all kinds of maneuvering in order to get over my head. Once I got it over my head, I loved the way it was sitting on my neck. It wasn't like choking me. It wasn't too floppy. It was like perfection. So a part of me does not want to go back and take it out. But I also want to make it easy as possible putting it on my head because I don't want to mess it up because I really love this sweater. I can see myself wearing it all the time. It took everything under the sun not to wear this once it was finished. I really wanted to wear this. I wanted to save it for my meeting. I want to walk around New York with it, and I am going to. And I cannot wait to wear it tomorrow during the day. And when I get home, I'm going to wear it on a plane too. So this is my one and only finished object that I have with me to share with all of you. There's a few other little mini finished objects that I did that I hope to put some pictures of that on my Instagram later on today. Most likely I will have to do that tomorrow because my battery is running low on my phone, and of course I didn't bring my plug with me. I thought I did. I grabbed a white cord. That wasn't the right white cord. But it's okay. But I love this pattern. Just again, this is Petite knit. This is a worsted weight yarn. I decided to use the Drops Brush Alpaca, Drops Flora, as well as this 100% cashmere thread that I purchased from Temu. All three colors were in black. I held all three yarns together at the same time, which offered its own yarn management issues. This was the flora was fine. Even the cashmere yarn was fine. I never had any tangles with either one. The one that was caused me all the gripe was the brush alpaca because it kept popping up out of the bag. Even when I made the bucket bag like super tight, it kept popping up and going everywhere but where it was supposed to go. Whereas the other two pretty much stayed where it was supposed to. So that was an issue. But other than that, it was such a wonderful pleasure, and just having it on my lap is putting so much natural warmth into it, and it's not itchy. It does attract everything. Let me tell you, everything under the sun is attracted to this sweater, but this is definitely going to be my cozy by the fireplace with red wine. I'm just kidding. With some red wine and chocolate chip cookies. Oh, chocolate chip cookies. I cannot wait to start making chocolate chip cookies. I'll be starting that next week with my sons. So that is my one and only finished object. So I already told you about my potential plans. So was really about it in terms of like catching up with me. As I mentioned before at the start of this video, I'm in New York. I'm here for a meeting. My family is at home, so I have the rest of the day to kind of sit back and chill. I thought it was, what time is it? Oh, it's only 2 o'clock. So my Friday night knits is starting early. I don't go out after 4 o'clock in cities I'm not as familiar with. Even with cities I am familiar with, because I don't have the patience for people, and I am just that person that attracts all the personalities. They all love talking to me. Even today, I went out for breakfast after I arrived here, and I dropped my stuff off in the room. I was like, I'm going to treat myself to a really big breakfast because I got up super early, And I'm sitting there, I'm eating, and naturally, this older woman, very sweet older woman, just started talking to me. I guess I just had that look on my face. It was just like, you know what, you seem like someone who wants to know all my life story. So she told me her life story, as I was eating. Now, mind you, I had my headphones on. I thought I had all the, I don't want to look or talk to anyone, parameters of, nope. She was like, you seem like you want to take out the what you're doing out of your ears, and you're going to listen to me tell you my story. So, but it's all good. It was a very fun conversation with her while we were both watching Home Alone. But while I was walking around the city, I was listening to my audiobook. One of my knitting buddies has suggested I read The Pumpkin Cafe. So I've been listening to that since this morning. I should be finished with it hopefully this evening. It's it's one of those quick little cozy love stories, whatnot. You already know where it's going to go. It's more like one of those audiobooks that's for Hallmark. So I'm enjoying that, and I should be finished with that this evening, if not tomorrow. yeah, definitely by tomorrow. And I already mentioned that I am reading a book that I just purchased from the bookstore. I'm on page like 27. Usually I read like the first couple of pages before leaving a bookstore, but this was a debut book by a brand new author, and I just wanted to give her my funds because I love the fact that that bookstore was celebrating this brand new Black author with a newly published book who doesn't have any fame or anything behind her to promote her name. It's just her words. And so I love that. So I wanted to, and plus the book cover was purple. It's purple. So I can't wait to talk to you about it. I hope I like it. If I don't, then you'll know. And then finally, I'm also listening to another audiobook called The Poppy Wars. It's by R.F. Kung. And this is the same author who wrote Yellowface. Very good book, very entertaining. It's a historical fiction. It's loosely based on the Poppy Wars. It has a little bit of that fantasy element to it in terms of like the different powers that the various characters have, but still dealing with that same element in relation to the interference by Western society into their civilization, how they interacted with each other, and how to deal with the internal conflict among themselves, and knowing that they need the military support of Western society. It's really good, really good. I'm enjoying it. I'm on book 2, and I probably will finish with book 2 by the end of next week. Because I'm still have some other, I have too many books going on right now because I'm also reading with my sister-in-law Zodiac Academy, which is still not good, but I'm still reading. It's one of those trashy novels that I can't put down because it's good, but it's not good. And I'm still reading The Message. I have just 54 minutes left in the book to read, and I can't seem to bring myself to finish it. It's not because it's not good. His words, whoa, they evoke so much emotion in me, and positive emotion, nothing negative. And it makes me think, and I'm still processing what I've read or slash listened to in the previous chapter. So I plan to put that back on again very soon. But yeah, that's it. Definitely not watching anything but holiday movies. What we've been doing at home is that everyone will pick which Christmas movie, that's the holiday we celebrate, which Christmas movie that they're going to watch. And so my 8-year-old recently picked the old school version of The Grinch, whereas the 10-year-old picked the new school version of The Grinch. I put The Wiz. I love, that's one of my favorite movies, and I remember being around 7 or 8 and watching it for the first time for Christmas and falling in love with it. And so I was hoping my kids would love it as much, and just to see their little bodies dancing to the music, especially as they were on their way to go see The Wizard. And I don't know how many of you have seen the movie. If you haven't, please watch it. It is an excellent movie. But anywho, there's these beautiful dancers, and their colors are changing because the wizard is saying like, you're gonna do the color gold and the color green and the color red. My favorite color change in that particular one is the color gold. I love when they do the gold because it's this fast upbeat. But the red is like really sultry. I love that one too. I'm sorry, I digress. I'm going on a tangent about The Wiz. But if you haven't seen The Wiz, highly recommend it. What did my husband pick? He really hasn't picked a movie yet. And the reason why, because he keeps falling asleep with it. So we've been picking for him. So I guess I have to give him a turn. But yeah, all in all, it's been a good start to the holiday season. Got our Christmas trees up. Our kids are very excited about celebrating. We're not doing a big toy purchase for them as well, and they're excited about that actually, which is great. And I just signed up for some more sessions to volunteer my time and service at a homeless shelter, or in Cambridge we say unhoused shelter that's there. So what happens, I actually went for the first time last Sunday, and it was incredible. I had an opportunity to cook food on behalf of people who are unhoused or displaced, and I made fried barbecue chicken, homemade macaroni and cheese, vegan mac and cheese because not everyone enjoys eating meat. We made vegan mac and cheese. instant mashed potatoes, instant corn stuffing. What else did we make? We made grilled cheese, grilled tuna melts, and a couple of other things too. Just whatever. The peanut butter and jelly was also a very popular request by the guest as well. So we made that and served that to them, myself and a few of my students, and then we brought the food out to them as well. So that was definitely a highlight of my weekend last weekend. So that was a wonderful way to end the week and start the week, if that makes sense. And let's see, I think that's really about it. I'm gonna sit here and get some knitting done and try not to fall asleep because I want to sleep well tonight. And yeah, that's about it. So thank you so much for, if you are one of those people who sat through this entire video and to listen to me talk about my current projects. If you have any suggestions on which pattern I should do, let me know, because I'm definitely leaning towards using this for the petite knit pattern that just came out, and using this for the Arctic Light, because you know what, you need white sweaters in your life, and if I pair it with this yarn, it won't feel so white. But we'll see what ends up happening. But anyway, I hope all of you are well, and again, thank you so much for tuning in.